Forsaken does a lot of things right for a zombies map. It has a magnificent wonder weapon, a straightforward main quest with a great ending, and excellent side quests to keep players coming back for more. However, I believe Treyarch missed a big opportunity in one aspect of Forsaken: the overwhelming amount of special zombies. Special zombies have been a staple of the mode since Hellhounds were introduced way back in Shinonuma. They play two key roles in the zombies formula. First, they provide an additional challenge for players to overcome. Ideally, the challenge would complement the game's mechanics instead of clashing with them. Secondly, special enemies add personality and depth to a map's lore and location. And it's those two roles that I think Treyarch has forgotten about when developing the entirety of Cold War Zombies, and this has culminated in the crazy, chaotic mess of boss zombies that we have in Forsaken. Let's take a look at the first role, the gameplay challenge. Forsaken introduces a new special zombie in the form of the Abomination, a tanky three-headed enemy that can either shoot the player from a distance or charge at the player. While simply shooting it will eventually take it down, landing shots on the glowing mouth will deal devastating damage, taking out the Abomination remarkably fast. By itself, the Abomination is a fantastic addition to the ensemble cast of boss zombies in Cold War. It is a dangerous force that can cause serious damage to the player if left unchecked. It demands players' attention and rewards skillful players for having a good aim in the midst of the disorder of combat. However, combining the Abomination with the entire Cold War Zombies cast creates a problem. When players are asked to deal with an Abomination in combination with Manglers and Tormentors and Plaguehounds and Disciples and Tempests, the unique and engaging gameplay challenge begins to obscure. Players can't fully concentrate on each of the challenges that the special zombies present, nor can they appreciate them for what they are. Now, this is nowhere near the levels of absurdity that we have seen in maps like The Beast from Beyond, but this is certainly a step in the wrong direction, if you ask me. This was a problem back in Black Ops 4 with the Chaos storyline maps. Each map had a different special enemy type called Catalyst Zombies. These special enemies had a variety of ways to deal damage to the player or increase the threat to the player. And while I actually really enjoyed these enemies mechanically, I think they were overused in nearly every possible way. Having such a large number of special enemies also poses a difficult balancing problem. If the developers want players to face off against Tempests, Disciples, Plaguehounds, Tormentors, Abomination, Mimics, and Manglers all at the same time, that means that none of those enemies should pose that big of a threat. If each of those enemies were stronger, tougher, and more difficult to deal with, it would bring down the quality of the gameplay. Players would be overwhelmed and it would feel unfair, not unlike the aforementioned Beast from Beyond. In fact, the enemies within Cold War are all very fair and simple to deal with. None of them feel that overwhelming or unfair. In fact, the only boss zombies that I would say feel incredibly strong would be the Megaton and the Krasny Soldat, which is exactly why they don't show up as frequently as the other special enemies in Cold War. Having the gameplay suffer mechanically is certainly an issue, but I don't think it's the biggest problem that having so many special enemies presents. Having such a high volume of recurring special enemies significantly diminishes a map's unique identity. I think this is the most underrated feature of special enemies. Special enemies are more than capable of setting a map's tone and reinforcing its setting. Take Shadows of Evil for example. It has an excellent atmosphere. The Margwas, Meatballs, and Parasites all contribute to that same tone and setting. When players think of Zetsubo no Shima, they correlate it with the Spiders and Thrashers. When they think of Origins, they think of the Panzer. Even in Black Ops 4, when they think of Dead of the Night, they think of vampires and werewolves. Special enemies are a key factor in building the map's lore and presentation. Imagine Shadows of Evil with spiders and manglers and hellhounds and panzers. It ruins the theme. It ruins the immersion. It just doesn't work. And that is exactly how I feel when I play maps like Mauer der Toten and Forsaken. Having to deal with Manglers, Tormentors, Mimics, Disciples, and the Soldats or Abominations isn't honestly that big of a deal. I don't think it's interesting, but it's manageable. The biggest problem, the biggest disappointment is that when I think of Forsaken, instead of thinking about the Abomination and how well it fits with the map's theme, I just think of the chaotic mess of boss zombies I have to deal with. I believe Mauer der Toten would be a better map if the Manglers weren't in it at all. I believe Forsaken would be a far better map without the recurring special enemies. I believe the solution to this problem is fairly simple. Reduce the number of boss zombies and increase the challenge and difficulty they present. The fewer encounters players have with special enemies, the more challenging they can be. Disciples, Tempests, Mimics, and Manglers honestly don't prove to be all that challenging. However, if they were stronger and more threatening, they might be capable of providing that challenge the developers want. This would mean that those boss zombies need to be more mechanically interesting and perhaps lead to more development time spent on each enemy, but I believe the results would be worth the effort. Not only would this be beneficial by adding depth to each enemy type individually, but it would also allow each enemy to play a bigger role in the atmosphere and theme of each zombie map. Imagine if Marauder Toten only had Tempests, Krasny Soldats, and Tormentors used sparingly. Then we get Forsaken, and it introduces us to the Disciples of the Forsaken that increase the deadliness of the basic zombies, and then this abomination that is as strong and threatening as the Megaton that simply demands your attention. Naturally, these stronger special zombies would need to show up less frequently to maintain the balance of the game, but if that was the case, I truly believe these maps would have more style and atmosphere embedded into them naturally, in addition to increase the difficulty of the game, which many players believe it needs. Keep in mind, the developers are doing this for a reason. Not only do we see this with the Catalyst zombies in Black Ops 4, but we see this with all of the special types of zombies in World War II. Disliking boss zombies is not an unpopular opinion, and the community does not shy away from voicing their distaste for special enemies. So it raises the question of why the developers continue to implement an abundance of boss zombies despite the community's obvious aversion to them. My theory is that the developers do not trust the core gameplay of the basic zombie enemies to hold players' attention. I believe the developers want to present players with a wide variety of enemies that force them to make engaging decisions about how to deal with them at all times. Having a permanent set of enemies that appear in every map, in theory, adds depth to the basic moment-to-moment gameplay. The problem that I don't think the developers realize is that zombie players' favorite thing to do in zombies is killing basic zombies. Anything that mows through basic zombies, the community loves. Anything that is super strong against a whole horde of basic zombies, the community loves. Players absolutely love grinding through basic zombies. I don't fault the developers for trying to implement more depth to the core gameplay, but I don't think they're going to get it by adding special enemies at all times. That being said, place yourself in the position of a developer. Say you spend hours and days of your time developing this really cool and interesting boss zombie. Would you want all of that hard work to only be within one map? I understand the developers are wanting to make the most out of their development time, especially when they are under as tight of a schedule as Treyarch has been for the past 3 years. Unfortunately, I don't think spamming special enemies is the solution they were hoping for. I absolutely love what the boss zombies can potentially do for a zombie map. The depth, lore, and challenge they can provide are all key aspects to what makes a zombie map successful. Cold War Zombies has gotten a lot right, but this is one place that I believe they dropped the ball. Speaking of success, be sure to check out these 2 successful videos on screen. If you enjoyed this video, a like is appreciated, and for more weekly zombies content, don't forget to subscribe, and as always, stay beautiful.